Welcome back to Tightwad Workshop. In this video we'll be laminating pairs of boards together to make the top and aprons of the 4-pallet workbench. Once you've dismantled your pallets, you'll have 8 long wide boards with chopped off corners, 4 long wide boards with the corners intact, 8 long narrow boards, 4 long wide boards with chamfered edges, 8 long narrow boards with chamfered edges, and 12 short wide boards. Our first step is to match up 6 pairs of the long wide boards for the bench top and sides. You want to match the end grain direction on these boards so that they'll glue together well. Ideally, when you laminate 2 boards together, you want them to match as though they were originally next to each other in the log, as shown in the good examples here. You can't always get a perfect match like this, but you want to avoid matches like the 2 bad examples here. Once you've matched up your pairs of planks, mark each pair with the same symbol. For our next step, we need to plane the mating surfaces of each pair of boards. I recommend putting a squiggle mark on those sides so that you don't lose track of them. We'll be planing off the rough surface and any high spots like this one. It's much easier to build a workbench if you already have a workbench, but if you have no other options, you can do this planing work using your saw stools. Stack your 2 boards together to reduce the amount of bendiness in the boards. Make sure your plane blade is sharp and set for a nice fine depth of cut. Then, have at it. Try to keep your backside over a saw stool, otherwise you'll bend the board with your weight. This means you'll need to move the work around to plane the whole surface of the boards. Use a straight edge to check the flatness across the board. Then turn the board around to plane the other end. Working this way guarantees you'll be planing against the grain of the wood at least half the time, so make sure you keep your blade sharp and only use a shallow cut. Switch the boards around and plane the squiggle marked surface of the second board. As you've seen, it's entirely possible to do the planing on your saw stools, but it's a lot easier on my back to do it while standing. If you built the 2-pallet table project, then you can use it as a better temporary workbench for planing these boards. Here I'm temporarily nailing a couple of boards to the top of this table to make a planing stop. The planing stop extends beyond the bench to the brick wall so that we've got a stable object to push against. Mark the surfaces to be planed with a squiggle like you did before. Now put the first board against the planing stop and get to work. Check with your straight edge regularly to see where you need to remove more material to flatten the board. Unlike this table, our finished workbench won't wobble at all under the plane. I don't know about you, but I found that a lot more ergonomic. You also need to plane both sides of all 16 of the narrow boards. These boards will be laminated together to make the bench legs and struts, so they need to be flat and clean on both sides. Now it's time to laminate the wide boards together to make the bench top and aprons. Start by laying some newspaper on your temporary bench to catch any glue spills. Next, lay a couple of thick planks on the paper. These will allow the clamps to stand upright while we assemble the glue pack. Assemble the clamps and bolts, leaving the caps off for now. Lay your first board into the clamps. Then spread a generous layer of glue on its partner. I use a scrap of plastic as a squeegee for this task. Flip the glued board over and add it to the stack, glue side down. Repeat this process for the other 5 pairs of boards. Put the caps on the clamps and spin on the nuts. Tighten the nuts with a spanner, then wait for the glue to dry. Once the glue is dried, remove the clamp caps. Then separate the 6 laminated planks. You might need a chisel to separate some of them if the glue's squeezed out and dripped down the sides of the block. That finishes the first part of this workbench build series. Stay tuned for the next episode where we'll be making the leg units. See you next time. Tightwad Workshop is filmed in front of a live studio audience.